G'day guys, Fitcho here and welcome back to my F1 2018 Ferrari Career Mode. We're here for episode number 7 and the Canadian Grand Prix. Now, coming into this weekend, Red Bull have made yet another upgrade to their car and now they are pretty much level with ourselves and Mercedes. Mercedes is ever so slightly, fractionally the best team. We are fractionally ahead of Red Bull as the second team, but it is so close between the three of us. Now, coming into this race, two drivers have taken grid penalties, those being Sebastian Vettel and Daniel Ricciardo. Vettel is going to be starting out of 11th place on the grid, and Ricciardo, you can almost just see him through up there to the left, is starting out of 15th on the grid, while it is a Mercedes front row lockout up the front with Verstappen starting in 3rd place. Now, we are in a very commanding position in the championship right now. I think we're about 44 points ahead or something crazy, and we want to keep our podium streak going, but we do have a bit of rain here, which is going to mess around with our strategy for today's race. But the thing is, this rain is not going to last. It's only going to last for about the first third of the race according to the weather that we have been given. Then it's going to be dry up and eventually get sunny by the end of today's race. So it's going to be difficult, hard to predict the strategy for this race as the conditions are going to be changing, and we're very much going to be doing that on the fly. So there's no strategical advantage, I think, to have over the other drivers like we have in past races like Monaco. We played ourselves into that race by going long and only making one stop, whereas a lot of the other drivers made two. With these weather conditions, we aren't really in a position like that, so we have to actually fight properly through the field today. So that should make a very interesting race. It'll be interesting to see how we go coming through the field along with Ricciardo and Vettel, and if any of us can challenge those Mercedes at the front. Just quickly, before we do get to the race, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you do subscribe with notifications on so you know when every episode of this series does go live. Without further ado, let's get to the race. Here we go, we're on the grid in Canada. Rain is falling, we're on the intermediate tires and the revs are up. And it's lights out and away we go. The Canadian Grand Prix is underway, trying our best to try and control that wheel spin in these intermediate conditions as we head down towards turn number 1. We don't really have anywhere to go here. In behind Sirotkin and Brendan Hartley as Hartley gets past Sirotkin, and now we are going to look to the outside of the Russian. Can we make this move stick? No, we cannot. We're going to dart back across to his inside and up the inside at turn number 3. We are going to go up the inside of Brendan Hartley, as well as we're all tippy-toeing our way through on lap number 1, careful of all the other cars, trying to just keep our car on the track and also keep it in one piece as we go up the inside of Lance Stroll and we make that move stick. Now up into 17th place. Up next is Marcus Ericsson, and then it looks like Stoffel Van Dorn as we go down the new DRS. So of course no DRS on it as it's lap 1 and no DRS in these conditions. We're just going to try to stay as close as we can to the Sauber, maybe looking up the inside of this hairpin. Are we going to be close enough to send it up the inside? Yes, we are. Nice and controlled. On past games, I might have been able to send that up the inside of Stoffel Van Dorn, but they have improved the AI, making them less dive bombable, let's say. But now onto the back straight in the slipstream of Stoffel Van Dorn with his Renault-powered McLaren, and our Ferrari power unit is much quicker down the straight. Couple that with a bit of slipstream, and we're going to get up the inside of that McLaren quite easily down into the final chicane. And up next is Daniel Ricciardo as he comes to the end of lap number 1, up 5 places into 15th. That is a very good opening lap in my opinion. We're right on the back of Daniel Ricciardo now. Can we look up the inside of the hairpin? Yes, we can. Up the inside of the Aussie using a little bit of curb, something you don't usually want to do in these conditions, but such a slow speed corner, it doesn't really make a difference. And we get past the Red Bull, and now we have the sister team in front of us of Pierre Gasly in that Toro Rosso. We're in overtake mode on the ERS. Can we look up the inside of the Toro Rosso down into the chicane? I looked up his inside and then I tried to back out of it knowing I wasn't close enough, but I left the braking a little bit late and that got a bit scrappy, but we have kept it nice and clean. Gasly saw us coming and gave us a little bit of room, and that actually compromised his run through that chicane, and we do get past him, but we understeer horribly through turn number 1, and he's tried to switch us back there, but we have managed to hold on to that position. These conditions are quite treacherous. The track is really quite greasy right now, and the car is slipping and sliding all over the place. We did have a bit of intermediate conditions in practice 1, and the car definitely had more grip then than it does right now. Jeff coming over with a new strategy, and he is saying to go onto dries on lap number 5, which is not this lap, but next lap. So he thinks it's drying up enough. Oh, he's coming across with a new strategy already, and again, it's saying the exact same strategy, lap 5, to go onto a set of the Ultra Softs, which is not this lap, but next lap, as DRS has been enabled. I might actually box this lap, take a risk here, and go onto the dry tires. I'm not too sure what Seb is doing up in front. He is just 2 places up, but I think we are going to dive into the pit lane on this very lap, and that is what a lot of other drivers are doing. Everyone into the lane. It does look like Sebastian has pitted just in front of us. We are going to have to stack behind our teammate, but I think stacking for a few seconds here is better as we wait. Oh, this is a long stack because he's waiting for cars coming into the pit lane. This is really going to hurt us. I was thinking a stack isn't going to be too bad in this situation because I'm going to lose more time by staying on intermediates for a lap when the track is in dry conditions. But that has cost us a lot of time. We've stayed ahead of Daniel Ricciardo, and we've come out behind Brendan Hartley, who started alongside us on the back row of the grid. That just shows how bad that stop was for us. So all that good work that we did on that opening 4 laps has been undone. Well, on the back of Brendan Hartley in his Honda-powered Toro Rosso, as we come down the DRS straight, we're already pulling alongside him before we even open that DRS flap. And now we fly past that Toro Rosso and up into 18th place. And up next is Marcus Ericsson. We get DRS again to continue our pursuit of Ericsson. Now there's Sergei Sorokin in the pit, so he's done that extra lap, not wanting to stack. And if we just look at the minimap, you can see he's a fair way behind by the looks of things. Now, just speaking of the DRS quickly, I am a little bit worried about the DRS in today's Grand Prix, because in practice 2, the DRS flap got stuck open. Not once, not twice, but 6 times it got stuck open in the one practice session. So I'm just worried that could be a lingering issue for Ferrari, and that could strike during today's Grand Prix. It's already hit us a few times throughout the weekend, so I'm just a little bit worried about that, because that's not something you particularly want, that DRS flap being wide open. But while I've been rambling about the DRS, we have been gaining up to Marcus Ericsson. We're probably going to sit in behind him as we head down into the hairpin, and then use that very DRS I've been talking about to try to find our way past Marcus Ericsson. Up into overtake mode we go. And now the second white line. That always confuses me because there's 2 white lines on the track, but it's the second one for DRS, and we blast past the Swede and up into 16th place as we go a little bit deep into that final chicane. Nico Hulkenberg taking the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Those Renaults as we take it back off him. But the Renaults are definitely the best of the rest, but behind Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull right now. As it looks like we have Stoffel Van Dorn and Lance Stroll up next in front of us. Right, we're on the back of a very long train. It looks like our teammate Sebastian Vettel is also in this train a little bit further up. As onto the back straight we do come up into overtake mode, open the DRS flap, but everyone in front of us also has the DRS because we're in such a long train, but nonetheless a big run on Stoffel Van Dorn, and we're going to send it up the inside of the chicane, and we get that move done. So it looks like Stroll and Grosjean have been fighting it out, and they've held each other up as Stroll is going for a move on Grosjean, and we're going to go for a move on both of them down into turn number 1. A little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact with Lance Stroll as we go around his outside, using a little bit of curb, using a little bit of grass. He is not wanting to give us much space whatsoever, but we go right around the outside. A lot more grip from this Ferrari than that Williams, and we just have the superior grip to go around the outside and up into 13th place now. And that little fight has detached us from the back of that train now. Right, it looks like Sebastian Vettel has made his way past Charles Leclerc now. And now it is Gasly and Leclerc in our sights on to the DRS straight. We're in the slipstream of Gasly. DRS flap on open on both that Toro Rosso and our Ferrari up the inside, potentially 3 wide down into the chicane. We just about make that move stick. A double overtake there. Absolute madness. I had a big run on Gasly. Gasly had a run on Leclerc, and it ended up being 3 wide into the tightest corner on this track possibly. In terms of getting 2 cars through there, that is incredibly difficult through that chicane, let alone 3. And we somehow all got through there fairly unscathed, and up into 11th place we go now. And up next on track is our teammate Sebastian Vettel, who looks like he is right up the back of a Haas. And Vettel, just like that, makes his way past the Haas, who happens to be Kevin Magnussen. Now, 2 races ago, we did have a little bit of a run-in with Kevin, but ever since then, things haven't been too bad. He didn't cause us too much grief in Monaco, and hopefully we can find a way past the Dane pretty easily without too much pain in the next lap or so.
Okay, so Magnussen. They have an issue with their car. They're going to be slow.
Magnussen has some sort of issue with their car. We saw that firsthand. He just speared off the road. I'm going to assume that's probably a puncture or something, as we have yellow flags behind us, which I assume is for Kevin Magnussen. And we got past him fairly easily, let's say. I did sort of have to avoid him a little bit, but he just sort of darted off to the right. Didn't really cause us too much grief. And we're through, and now we can continue chasing down our teammate as we make our way through the pack. Okay, Brendan Hartley is also out of the race, and we have the first safety car of the season. Can we dive into the pit lane? I think... Okay, I'm going too slow apparently, and cars are just passing me willy-nilly as I am trying to slow down before the pit lane. I'm going to jump onto a set of the super soft tires, the hardest compound, in the hope of going to the end. I really don't know what the tire life is, because on the graph at the start of the race, because it was a wet start, it was all intermediate conditions, it assumed. It didn't know when it was going to dry up or predict any sort of strategy for us. So we're jumping on some super softs, and we're just going to sail this through right to the end of the race. That is the plan, the first safety car we have seen. And it came at a nice time for us to be able to dive into the pit lane. Oh, the Delta. But I was a bit slow trying to work out what I was going to be doing. And the AI just passed us, which is a bit odd, but I was going quite slow, I will admit. Here we go, the safety car is coming in now. We're about to go back to green flag racing right on the back of Romain Grosjean. We're going to look up the inside of the Frenchman as he's diving up the inside of Sergei Sorokin down into the chicane, and Sorokin has got a shocking exit, and we managed to cut back as now we've hit Sorokin trying to avoid Magnussen. I probably jinked a little bit too far there, to be fair, into Sorokin, as I was just a little bit shocked by Magnussen going so slow there. And now we have front wing damage, and our strategy is to go to the end of the race from here. This is not what we want at all, because if we look at the pit stop information, it's saying 1 stop left between lap 24 and 34, and obviously there is only 35 laps in this Grand Prix, so I assume I can extend this out to the end of the race, and we don't have to worry about what compounds we've already been on, as it did start wet, and we have already been on multiple dry compounds. So we're in an interesting predicament here. We're 17th on track, front wing damage, and not pitting again in today's Grand Prix, as Grosjean is fighting Marcus Ericsson down into the hairpin, going very slowly there. As now we open it up onto the back straight, back on the throttle we go. DRS is still saying safety car coming in, maintain speed on my screen. I just realized there's a little bit of a glitch there as we head down towards the chicane. Grosjean still in behind Marcus Ericsson, and we weren't quite close enough to do anything about Grosjean, who was getting a big slipstream off Marcus Ericsson. Is down towards turn number 1. We're going to dive up the inside of the Frenchman, but he has the inside line for turn number 2 as Daniel Ricciardo is just up ahead of us. He has not made it far through the field as we have made our way past Romain Grosjean. Not quite. He's going back up our inside, and we've forced our way up the inside of Ericsson there as he was going super slow, being caught out by, I think it was Ricciardo and Van Dorn, fighting it out, and we didn't pick up any damage. It was an aggressive, barely legal overtake, but I'm going to continue. I'm going to press on. We're in an interesting predicament right now, and we just need to get our heads down. Right on the back of Stoffel Van Dorn on to the DRS straight. No DRS just yet. We're going to pull to the inside of the Belgian. A very simple overtake there for us as on to the brakes we go down into the final chicane. It looks like there's a bit of a fight going on just in front of us, and they almost got out into the Wall of Champions, I do believe. Not too sure who it is. Charles Leclerc, and it looks like Fernando Alonso is now. We're right on the back of Ricciardo. Can we find a bit of grip around the outside? No, we can't quite do that. We're going to have to sit behind the Aussies. Look like Leclerc and Alonso still battling it out up at the front of this train, and we've just got nowhere to go. Of course, that's setting a ripple effect back through this train as we went late on the brakes. I wasn't really looking up the inside of Ricciardo. I was just making sure I didn't plow into the back of that Red Bull there and damage our front wing even further than it already is. Right, through the hairpin we go on to the power, and now up into overtake mode we go, and I'm also going to go up into rich revs there, as we do have a lot of extra fuel in the car. That's what the game told me to do, so I went with it. But now we have the run on Ricciardo, and we're going to go up the inside of the Aussie, down into the chicane. Big lock up on that front right, and we just stopped short of hitting Lance Stroll there, and we managed to keep our car in one piece. Of Alonso and Leclerc going at it yet again up in front of us here, and now we're in behind the Williams. Can we do something around the outside? I keep looking at that same move, and he's just moving across there a bit like Magnussen did, just a little less vigor than in the Spanish Grand Prix. Leclerc and Alonso still going hammer and tong just in front of us. There's just not much we can do, and we're going to launch it up the inside of Lance Stroll. An aggressive move, but a fair one, and up into 11th place we now go. Pierre Gasly is up next, and it's Leclerc and Alonso. Things seem to have settled down. We're going to have to pit. They caught me out with how early they were braking. 100% my fault driving into the back of him. But it just surprised me how early he was braking there, as Jeff is coming over with a new strategy, and I think we're going to go on to a set of the ultra soft tire. It's not what it's telling us to do right now, but we do have some ultras ready, and I'm not sure we're going to have enough. Yeah, okay, fuck off, Jeff. I get it. You want me to do a new strategy. We're going to go on to ultra soft tires, I do believe, here at the end of this lap, as Pierre Gasly is also coming into the pits. Oh, that was 100% my fault. You know, it's always your fault when you're driving to the back of another car, but it's just frustrating how slow they were going with all the fighting they were doing. I just got caught out by it. I knew it was going to happen at some point in this series, fighting through the field. I just get caught out by cars fighting in front of me, a bit slower than I expected them to be. And this could be our podium streak unraveling right in front of us, as we're sitting in 18th place. We have not made up much ground in this race. We've made ground, and then we've lost it again and again. We're seeing these tires through to the end, so we're just going to go for it. Hope for another safety car in this Grand Prix. That's about all we can do right now. Right, looking at the mini-map, it looks like a lot of cars are coming into the pit lane, including one of the leading Mercedes, who has just hit turn number 2 now, including our teammate as well. We got a radio message from Jeff, so we're not completely out of this Grand Prix, but if we had just kept our front wing in one piece, we would have decent track position right now. Instead, we're a fair way behind with a lot of work ahead of us. Right, Ricciardo has just pitted, and he's actually rejoined behind this, so we have actually got an undercut on him. We've made up a couple positions up into 13th place now. We might try to make another position. Stroll, I went for it, he locked up, and then I was like overcommitted when he locked up, and that was probably a bit over aggressive, I will admit. But right now I'm not too fussed about that. It wasn't the fairest move in the world, but it's only on Williams, and we need to keep pressing on. But I'm a bit frustrated. If I didn't damage my wing twice there, we would be in such a good position right now, because we would have been going to the end of the Grand Prix, whereas everyone has seemed to be making another pit stop right now. So that has hurt us just a little bit, that mistake. But we're still in this. We're still in a decent position. We can still fight for points. We're only 2 places outside the points. There's still about 14 laps to go of this Grand Prix, and we have a good pace. So I'm not counting myself out of this Grand Prix. I do think, however, podium contention is probably out the window now. So Stoffel Van Dorn has some sort of problem. If he could retire and cause a safety car, I would be a very happy chappy right now. Right, on the back of Gasly, onto the DRS straight we go, into overtake mode. DRS flap now open, pulling to the inside of the Toro Rosso, the Toro Rosso powered Honda, the Honda powered Toro Rosso is what I am trying to say, and we breeze past him with ease up into 11th places. Now we hunt down Charles Leclerc, and if we can get past the young Ferrari prodigy, we will find ourselves in the points. Right, it looks like one of the Haas's was in the pit lane, and that means we are now up into the points, into 10th place, as we continue to hunt down Charles Leclerc, and it looks like the McLaren of Fernando Alonso is just ahead of him, so that duel could continue at any moment. Here we go. Speaking of that battle resuming, Charles Leclerc up the inside of Fernando Alonso through the chicane. They compromise each other so much. We're careful into the chicane and a nice double overtake there. Up into 8th place we go, and now we can start hunting down Nico Hülkenberg up ahead of us in the Renault. It looks like Leclerc and Alonso still going at it. And it looks like Charles has got the upper hand in this particular fight. And it looks like there is another duel happening just in front of us. Esteban Ocon and Nico Hülkenberg going at it. But Hülkenberg gets the move done before the chicane, and they are far enough ahead of us that we wouldn't have been able to make any big gains if they had a little bit of a fight through that chicane and tripped over each other just a little bit. But now it is Esteban Ocon that we have our sights on rather than Nico Hülkenberg. We have really gained up on Esteban Ocon. DRS flap open, but his DRS flap is also open because of Nico Hülkenberg, and we are not going to be close enough down into the chicane, but we get a second go at this onto the pit straight. DRS flaps open on both our cars into the slipstream of the Force India as we set the fastest lap of the race and up the inside of the Frenchman, and we get that move done nice and clean. A textbook overtake on the Force India, and now we set our sights on Nico Hülkenberg in the Renault. There isn't really an opportunity to overtake through here, but possibly get in his slipstream up the inside of this left-hander, but I don't feel we're going to be quite close enough. There's actually a DRS straight that comes after these two corners. I keep forgetting this little DRS straight is here, but we're falling just a tad too far back. I do think to have a proper crack at Hülkenberg down at the end of this straight. That's not a fantastic overtaking opportunity with that DRS straight that they have put in, but now up to the hairpin. We just want to sit in nicely behind the Renault, get the DRS down the long back straight, and we should easily be able to blast past that Renault with our Ferrari power unit with a bit of slipstream, a bit of DRS when he has nothing to defend with whatsoever. And here we go. You can just see the amount of extra speed we have down the straight, and that is an easy overtake and up into what is now 6th place. And up next is our teammate Sebastian Vettel. Oh fuck, that's our race over. Oh, I pushed too hard through the final chicane and into the wall of champions. We go. It was what, lap 31 and 35. We're only 4 laps away from the finish. And we bottled it. There's no other way to say that. Down into the chicane, we turn in a fair bit of curb there, getting a bit of yellow curb in the back end. Just came around on us. I try to catch it, but we just drift wide into that wall, and that's it. That's the front left gone. That is our race done. Caught out, pushing too hard, trying to catch up to Sebastian Vettel. Let's try to get a nice, the off-board cameras. There we go. Just to watch our own mistake there. Through there, we just lose the back end. We try to catch it, and we just slide out into the wall, and that's our race over. So close to the end. That is really, really frustrating. 100% my mistake, obviously, just pushing too hard. But that's not what we wanted. That's not how we wanted our podium streak to come to an end. But what a topsy-turvy race that was, and it looks like Mercedes have taken victory. One of the Mercedes was battling hard with Verstappen at the front, and it looks like that Mercedes was Valtteri Bottas, who has won today's Canadian Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton, I assume, was in 3rd, with Verstappen there in 2nd place. A big battle. I could see it going on the mini-map, but I didn't know which Mercedes it was.
We can see the drivers coming out now to collect their trophies. It's yet more silverware to take back to their base in Brackley after another excellent Grand Prix.
So, Valtteri Bottas has won today's Canadian Grand Prix by 4 seconds over Max Verstappen. Then Lewis Hamilton comes home in 3rd for a double podium for the Silver Arrows. Sebastian Vettel is the best Ferrari, sitting there in 4th place. He did manage to pass Carlos Sainz in the dying stages of the race, but a double points finish there for Renault in the best of the rest places with Sainz and Hülkenberg. They can be happy with that. Esteban Ocon in 7th place. Fernando Alonso ended up getting the upper hand in that Alonso-Leclerc battle by less than 0.2 of a second there, which is a little bit mental. Then Pierre Gasly rounds out the points, as we did not finish today's Grand Prix, and nor did Brendan Hartley, and Daniel Ricciardo also out of the points, all the way down in 14th place. But what a topsy-turvy race that was. Started in intermediate conditions. We fought through the field just behind our teammate right as it dried up. We go into pit. We have to stack behind Vettel, and we get shoved back to the back of the field. We fight our way through. The safety car comes out. We elect to pit, shoving us back to the back of the field. We fight our way through the field. We pick up some damage, shoving us back to the back of the field. And we fight our way through the field and put it in a wall. Absolutely mental race with not an ideal result, and that will have hurt us in the championship. We still have a comfortable lead, but that lead is now less than a race victory back to Valtteri Bottas, only 19 points now. And then Max Verstappen is sitting in 3rd place, a further 10 points back. Then it is Sebastian Vettel in 4th place, equal on points with Lewis Hamilton, something that isn't too shocking to hear, but when you say they are fighting over 4th place in the championship, that is a bit of a surprise there. And then Daniel Ricciardo having a tough season. He's had 2 finishes outside of the points, the DNF in Australia and today here in Canada. Then Esteban Ocon, the best of the rest, the 2 Renaults, and Charles Leclerc rounding out the top 10. And jumping over to the constructors, it's been a tough day for Ferrari here. 4th and a DNF, while Mercedes a double podium, and they have clawed in a bit of ground. Only 19 points now separating us, then 50 points back to Red Bull, and then Renault in that best of the rest spot, jumping ahead of Force India this weekend, now 3 points ahead, and it's a very close battle between McLaren, Sauber, Haas. Only 1 point separating those 3 teams, with McLaren getting the upper hand over Sauber and Haas, who are tied on points. Yikes, that is a big hit to our reputation. Reputation has been something I've been battling with throughout this career mode. Obviously, sitting out of every qualifying session, so I do start last, has always decreased my reputation after every qualifying session. So I'm fighting throughout the race to try to build it back up. And today's DNF, I should say, has really hurt that reputation a lot across the board. So, unfortunately, that is how our podium streak ends in the Wall of Champions at Canada. It was a really good streak, 6 races in a row, 3 seconds to start off the season, winning in Baku, 3rd in Spain, then winning in Monaco, but unfortunately that run has come to the end. The first big blip on the radar, I guess, the first bad performance we put in all season, and that has hurt us in the championship, but we have been consistent. We are the only not the only repeat winner anymore, of course, with Bottas. We were the first repeat winner, and we do have the most podiums of any driver so far, so we are still leading the championship. 19 points, it's a reasonable margin, but it's still early in the season, so it's not too comfortable. We do have Valtteri Bottas chasing us down. Of course, he started the season off really strong, just like we did. Back-to-back thirds, and then winning in China. Then things went a bit pear-shaped for him in Azerbaijan. Mediocre in Spain and Monaco, but he's won here in Canada, and he's on a bit of a bounce back here, and is he going to continue this form into France? I'm not too sure. And speaking of the French Grand Prix, I really don't know how I'm going to perform there. Obviously, a new track. I don't have any experience on past Formula 1 games to have any gauge on how I'm going to go. It also depends how quickly I do learn the circuit, if it ends up suiting me or not. So that's a very big unknown on the calendar, the biggest unknown of them all. So that'll be a very interesting race to see how that does pan out, and that is going to be in the next episode. That's going to do it for today, guys. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure you do leave a like on the video. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you do subscribe with notifications on, so you know when every one of my F1 2018 videos do go live. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.